Wait, do we not have sound?
It's probably
We
okay
have
to
some sound,
go
but
through
not
this part of the
enough
meeting.
sound.
Okay.
We don't have sound.
We got the shotgun mic, don't worry.
Read my lips.
Yeah.
Been a long day.
I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is the Planning Commission report. We have 2 items from the Planning Commission. First item is the request by the Petersons for a conditional use permit to rent their property to 3 to 8 unrelated persons on a monthly or longer basis. This is allowed as a conditional use in the R1 zone district. You have the report of the Planning Commission. The public hearing was held. There were no individuals that spoke regarding this. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the request. And we have a resolution. So,
I'd make a
unless
motion,
there's any questions?
I'd make a motion to approve resolution 2017-33.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Not about this property at all, but just in general, like you said, this isn't any different than what, it's like already what people can do or do, right? I mean, it's just
The ordinance allows, as a conditional use, the use of the property, residential use of a property by 3 to 8 unrelated individuals. You know, it was brought up that this seemed to be kind of an antiquated language, and maybe we should be looking at that language in the future, but, it really isn't relevant to this conversation.
Right.
So,
What language? 3 to 8?
the 3 to 8 unrelated persons, there's, yeah.
We changed it last year. It used to say boarding houses
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
and rental of rooms for 3 to 8 unrelated persons. And so we decided boarding houses was no longer relevant. Removed that language, but left this concept in. We have granted this type of conditional use permit in the past a few times. It's generally been employee housing like this.
Mm-hmm.
We've also done some enforcement actions against overpopulated houses.
Oh.
So that's really but one time in 15 years. So that's really the extent of the use of this language.
Yeah, because some of that would probably, I suppose, just depend on the size of the space, right? I mean, what would be like work or not? Or is it a certain point at which it becomes like an apartment kind of a deal?
Well, our ordinance defines the way the building is organized. So, whether each room has a separate kitchen and a separate sleeping.
Oh, gotcha, sure.
And entrance, and that's how we would determine whether it's a single-family home or
Sure.
a duplex or some other multifamily use. So the issue here is, for the future anyway, do we really care how many people are in them? And I don't think that's answered. I don't think we've said yes, and I don't think we're ready to say no, but the
Sure.
Planning Commission may take that up.
The only other
Future
thing I thought
conversation.
about was parking, if that is any kind of...
We talked about that at Planning Commission, but there seems to be adequate room for parking. It's a corner lot, and it's across from, Betsy Bowen Studio, which, obviously is a commercial use that has.
Is there alley access parking there too, right? Yeah.
Well, a little bit,
Oh, you can't go up that and go in the back? Oh, okay. Sure, I know what you mean.
I'm happy that you have the use for it, and I know, yeah, so.
That,
I'm glad that-
I know that you've gone through hardships with the IBO thing, and I think this is just an awesome
I think it's great.
solution. Yeah, I think it's great. Thank you for going for it.
Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, vote aye.
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 Opposed, motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes. Second item is a variance request from Josh Lindstrom for a change to his roof to Well, I'll read it as it's stated here. Variance from the front yard setback to add a roof overhang 15 feet from the property line, 10 feet short of the required 25-foot setback. The overhangs will be added to the existing structure. No other modifications of the footprint are proposed. And again, I don't know if you're familiar with the property. It's on Broadway and 4th Street. Planning Commission held a public hearing. There was a letter which we have in the packet from the adjacent neighbor to the north, and they were supportive of the request. Planning Commission recommended approval of the request unanimously, and you have a resolution in the packet.
Make a motion to pass resolution 2017-34.
I'll second that. Any further discussion?
No, I'd just like to see how they accomplish that so I could mimic it.
What's that?
We did it in our house.
It just changed the
We
eaves.
just,
Yeah.
we just didn't have to do a variance, or
Variance.
yeah, we didn't have to do a variance. Yeah.
Oh, you're saying physically how?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't need this application. And
Michael talked.
let's go to City Hall.
Talk to a contractor.
I would start with Anton, yeah.
Yeah, well, we kind of, more than once we've had this conversation. Anyways, haven't just.
Any other questions, comments?
I think it's great to see him fixing up a house and
It
having a
needs it.
family in town, so.
Good for them.
Balance is durability. That's a big factor there, right?
Yeah.
Helps with that. Awesome.
If there's no other comments, then we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve the request, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Next. Eric? That's what happens when the mayor leaves town, you know. Let's not start bragging yet.
Okay.
Those walls are still standing, right? I didn't.
I am up here to give an update on the progress with the Public Works facility, and we do have another recommendation to put before everybody, but I'll start with an update. If I have my notes. So I'm not sure how many have been able to swing by the site or take a look, but the precast is all erected and up at this point. And they've been working on caulking all the joints and grouting all the bases around the footings of the building. And all that work is complete. And today they just wrapped up, they did an acid wash on the whole exterior of the building, and that's also complete. So things are moving along. We also jack and board the water line successfully today. So that was kind of a relief and a good, step in progress as well. So it's not connected. The final connections have not been made. It's scheduled to happen tomorrow morning. But the boring, the line got placed. I think it was roughly 17 feet down under that kind of the sidewalk area, so we didn't interrupt a lot of, it took them a day, so it was a successful boring. So it was good. And then obviously footings and foundations are all complete. The structure, the bar joists and metal decking are the next item. We have those scheduled for next Wednesday, the 19th, to deliver. So we'll also have the steel erectors on site. They'll have a crane, and they'll be offloading and starting to erect the structural steel components to the building and move towards getting the roof, the roof on. And there are some challenges with the site work and earthwork with the weather and the rain, but we're doing our best to work through that, and it's just, you can't control the weather, so, but things are tracking well. It's going really good. I think that's all the schedule updates I have. Any questions relative to schedule?
Everything is on schedule, right?
It is.
Mhm.
Yep. It's going really, really good. So then, if we could touch on the recommendation, we're recommending a painter. We did receive 3 bids for the painting scope portion, and after review and analysis of those bids, Steinbrecher Painting Company was the low bid, and they had a comprehensive, complete bid, and we are recommending them for the scope of work.
What do you think brought in such a change or a difference in the bid?
In the price?
prices? Yeah.
So, one of the things I questioned was the spec calls out for a 3-coat system, and all per the spec, all the painters needed to include that, and so I questioned them, and Steinbrecher did have it included. I suspected that they didn't at first, but they assured me that they included that. So I guess I don't really know where the delta is there, but I feel confident that they're covered with the scope that's in front of them. Maybe it's manpower getting the crews up here. I'm not sure if they were able to utilize more of a local crew, or have people in the area where they could bring on board, and the timing might have been better with their schedule. Yeah.
So they didn't, they didn't include the, unit pricing at all?
No, they did not.
That's just like a voluntary thing?
Yep, we request it, but, it's not mandatory that they provided it.
Have you worked with them? in the
Personally, I have not. Our office down in the cities, they have,
past? Okay.
yeah.
So that was okay. They're out of Princeton. I saw the 763. I was thinking they're out of Metro. No. They're out of Princeton.
So that's Troy's phone number. I don't recall where they're.
The one piece here lists them as a P.O. box and being up in Princeton.
Yeah, I know they're towards the cities more.
Okay.
So
Maybe
that would
that's
make
his home
sense.
address or something. I don't know.
Okay.
So that's who we're recommending. They can meet the schedule, the timing for the project. The primer, the dry fall system for the ceilings, the 3-coat system that's required for the specifications. So it's, it was clear to us, they're the ones that we should go with for the scope, so.
Nice to get bids that seem competitive.
Yeah, where does that, do you know about where all 3 of these fell into the budget? Or what do you expect?
Yeah, so J.B. Nelson, Julius B. Nelson, and Steinbrecher within budget, and then Swanson was above the budgeted amount. I think our budget was $55,000.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's,
I'd make a motion to accept the bid for painting and coating.
Is that the approval of the resolution?
Yes. Is that what I was looking for?
2017-35?
Yeah, where do you see
First
that, Tim?
page.
Yep.
Just before that.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2017-35.
The motion, is there a second? I'll second that motion,
That was close.
you know.
How much time do you have before?
Up to him.
is it like Jeopardy?
That's
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Glad we don't have that music while we're waiting.
It's always going to do something.
Uh-huh.
No, I'm fine with it. I just always get nervous when something is
Way
that
low.
different.
That different, right?
Yeah.
And we were too. But I did spend quite a bit of time on the phone with them,
Okay.
and I feel confident that they got the scope covered. You know, and I made sure that they were comfortable with it as well, and they are. So.
Well, they're comparable jobs to or MnDOT facilities
Yeah,
that
Yep.
seem to be very similar to
Right.
what we're looking at, so I felt like that. They may understand this maybe better than even the other bidders.
Yeah, why am I worried about good news?
No, I think it's smart to be worried.
Because it's not always good news, right?
Yeah.
But the good news part is that we hired a construction manager and they troubleshooted this for us, so.
It's awesome.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve Resolution 2017-35, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay. The other item I was hoping to discuss, it's not on the agenda, so I don't know the rules on whether I can bring it up or not.
Pretty strict. We're
Pretty
pretty strict.
Oh,
Depends on what it is, I think.
Oh, wait, I'm not running this meeting. Never mind. Tim's much easier to deal with.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
I think I got voted last.
Mike, I know we talked about the cold storage building, and we received one number, and it was from Lester Buildings. Their price was over budget, but the more I make calls and talk to pre-manufactured metal buildings, the specification was somewhat tailored to Lester Building because they have a proprietary roof system. So the building requires this roof through Lester, regardless of the shell, the remaining parts of the shell of the building. So I think that might be part of the reason why we didn't get a good pool of bidders, for the building.
We got one.
We got one, right? And we went out to Morton Building. Blanking their name right now in Superior. We went out to three specifically, requesting pricing, and Lester was the only one that came back with a price. And they were at 63,197, and that's supply and install of the cold storage building.
And that's over the budget.
And it's over, the
estimate.
budget was 45,000, so it's over the budget amount. But again, with, the buyout overall for the project has been very favorable. So it's kind of, it's a decision that we want to discuss and just bring before you guys and say,
There goes the paint. Just teasing you.
right.
Well, we talked about this at the last construction meeting. So we do bi-weekly construction meetings, and this was one of the items on the agenda. And staff at that time, we thought one of the issues would be scheduling. That was something that you had brought up.
Yep.
And none of us felt like this was a critical scheduling issue. We've got plenty of storage space. We'll have more than enough without this building, certainly for the winter. but probably into the next season as well. So we thought, well, if schedule's the only issue, we're willing to give that up to search for better prices. If the specification is the issue, then I think that's easy enough for us to deal with too, just by going back to LHB and saying, let's create a specification that multiple bidders can go on. I mean, we don't really need an architect to design a cold storage building for us. Any of these builders can give us a building design based on some pretty simple specifications. So that's what I think we ought to do.
I'm just
And-
curious what makes is there something special about their roof
They're-
deal? Or
well,
it's
they're-
just that it?
You know, the way I understand the roof system, it hides the fasteners that go on the roof. So they say it's a 0 chance of leakage to the roof. You know, I'm sure Morton Buildings and, you know, others could argue and say that theirs are, you know, near leak proof but,
So Morton doesn't do the standing seam, or isn't that or is it something besides standing seam?
yeah, they sent me some more product info.
It's in the roof panels, not in like the truss.
Yeah, it's like, if you can see,
Mm-hmm.
so the fasteners are concealed within a ridge cap at all the seams.
And that leads to, can I do basic math?
Thank you.
$17,000?
Yeah, and you know, overall budget-wise, it's not a big issue, but this is just something that isn't a critical need for us right now. And so we thought, well, we're willing to invest some more time in looking for a better price on it, because it's not going to cost us anything to do that.
So are you suggesting that we would reject this bid and then go and re-advertise? Is that how that would be
I
handled? or-
don't know if we even did advertise.
Well, this was
Or
issued.
resolicit, or
Yeah.
however.
It
we-
was a proposal request through the architect. They submitted a proposal request for the pricing, so it wasn't a bid item. They changed the spec. So initially, at bid time, nobody bid. It was a steel building, a steel structure building, which was a little more robust than what was, you know, required, and nobody bid that. So then they changed it to a pole building, so wood frame, you know,
Mhm.
interior, and then metal shell. And that was through a proposal request that we issued out to these local vendors. And I guess the point I would like to make is that if we, it's a timing thing too. Morton said they could not meet they're so booked with these buildings so far out that they couldn't even meet our scheduled timeframe, you know. And Lester said that they've got a small window of opportunity to meet it within our schedule. And if we, you know, if McGough is around and you would like us to manage that or be a part of that, it would make sense to keep it, you know, within our scope. Otherwise, if you wanted to pull it from our scope and then somehow down the road, you know, go with a different vendor or supplier or do it on your own terms or time, you know, that's up to the city.
Is that what you're suggesting then, is that we would consider doing this next year?
Yeah.
And go back out and solicit the
Yeah.
vendors at that time?
I don't have strong feelings about that, though. I just know that at the time with the department heads there, that's the way the conversation went, was this isn't a big priority issue for us. You know, we have all of our stuff stored right now, and those buildings aren't going to be demolished right away. So this, and you know, the building that we're constructing isn't right-sized for everything we own to be put in it and then never have any more space. You know, it's big enough for a little bit of expansion room, so.
The one we're looking at.
The one we're building right now, the big one.
Oh, gotcha.
So even, you know, things we had intended to use the cold storage building for could go into the public works facility right away if we just needed storage space for them, even if we tore everything else down.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and we'll still have the old garage for
Yeah.
a period of time. you
Yeah.
know.
And I don't want that to become a long period of time. I'd
No.
rather we're ready to just get rid of it when we need to. And I don't think this would create an issue with that. So, you know, it's just that at the time, which was last week when we had this conversation, the department heads were pretty not interested in moving quickly on it. I don't know that it would break their hearts if we decided to move forward with it, but
So is this unusual? Or you would always want to have these covered in some way, shape, or form, but maybe
I've
not by
never
their
seen
design?
that system, but there's other styles out there, like from
That
different.
accomplish the same
accomplish the
concept?
same thing, so
Yeah.
your fasteners are hidden.
They have their, on the back, there's a comparison between the standing seam roof, I think that's the SSR, and this system, and they're saying this system is fewer hours to install, which I don't understand that.
It's because it's bigger sheets.
Oh, yeah, touche. Huh.
Okay, well, my first reaction is do it and get it done. I mean, there's always other things on somebody's plate and things to accomplish. This is when you're here to take care of all these things and get them done. And if it's not a huge money thing and it's done and then someday along it's ready to roll, rather than have more things on our plate at another time when we'd rather think about something else and then we're stuck doing it. But that's my reaction. Get her done. But
Yeah, when do we need to let you know, Eric?
When's their window close?
Yeah.
Yeah, so right now I'm kind of at the, Ron Napper's the contact I have, and he was hoping he would have direction next week to lock it in, because of their schedule is crazy this time of year too. So I put it off and I said, well, we're doing some more due diligence, and a decision has not been made at this time. So, I mean, I think there's still opportunity to get in the queue.
I guess I personally, I guess I think that system makes sense, but I think that, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's worth $25,000 or is it $17,000 difference, or it's, well, we don't know what the other ones are because nobody else
Nobody-
gave a number.
Right.
So we might get a number from Morton that has all exposed fasteners and it's still $15,000 over or something.
And I
Right?
think
mean,
that
we don't know.
that's kind of the what we really were looking for with the time that we would spend was to get a couple more numbers just to check the number.
Yeah.
But this is just not a big enough issue in the grand scheme of the project to spend a lot of time thinking about.
Sure.
right. And then something comes up next year. I don't know, just
Right.
something. And I guess I was also trying to get a feeling, is this really quality when we're looking at something we just want to last? You don't ever want to come back for a very long time and ask people for this again, of any nature. You want to be done with it. And if this is, and that's why I asked you about the roofing thing. Like,
Yeah,
does
no,
it really
I mean,
make a
I think
difference
it
to
does,
help?
but I haven't used that style up and over Batten, but like in general, if there's that opportunity to go with the hidden fastener system, it's more expensive, but I always try and push that because you have don't exposed fasteners, so. Yeah, I think if it's in the scope, assuming like foundations and getting utilities, because there's gonna be power to it, right? There's obviously no water to it, but there would be
Yeah, so
power.
they don't provide any of the power or lighting, so that's in the electrician's scope to bring the power into the building. But as
Already in the
far-
number.
Already
that
in the
we've
numbers,
approved.
right, yeah, okay.
So, but that's not part of Lester's price. to
Well,
do
I
the
think like if that didn't happen now, and it would be weird to run power out and have it sitting in the middle of somewhere that would just get run over with snow plowing or whatever. And if you didn't do it now, then you'd be tearing up basically what is a finished product to try and trench power in after the fact, or, right, if we wait, or is it?
Well, we
are
would install
overthinking all
conduit,
of this?
and yeah, I don't think you need to worry about that. I mean, it wouldn't be a big deal either way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that, what you're saying makes the most sense to me too, just to do it now when we're doing this and not worry about it in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think getting it done is important, and we have no assurances that if we go back out and try to resolicit the other vendors, that we're gonna be any better off, you know.
Right, and, I mean, they indicated that they would have crews, they can even, you know, come in the wintertime and put a whole building like this structure up. It can be accomplished, you know, midwinter. But that poses its own challenges too, you know, depending on the snow, or you plow the site, you know, to give access, do you, I don't know. And at that time, if the rest of the project is complete and we pull our trailer off and we don't really have a presence up here, you know, it's not a huge building, it's a relatively, you know, it's simplistic building, but
It would be just nice to have something done while you're here. You're here to take care of things.
we take care of it. Yeah.
So are you saying there's no way, well, I don't mean to be too extreme there.
Yeah.
Are you saying it's not very likely to talk to LHB, get different specs or whatever, and then get some other numbers while you guys are still, like, I just feel like, yes, it'll be great to wrap it up, and you guys are doing great work and just having it under your watch. But if it's not, it doesn't seem like an $18,000 or a $17,000 emergency to, like, and if they can
Well,
do
we
it in
don't
the
know
winter.
if that, we never had, we're not going against a real bid, that was an estimate, we don't know, like, Tim
Right.
said, we could come back in really close to that number, and then we've
Yeah.
churned a lot of time for nothing.
Right.
Or could come back more.
Well,
Yeah.
no, that's what, oh, I thought that's what Tracy was saying. Well, I was just thinking it could come back like this Steinbrecher painting that's way lower, you know, like,
Christmas doesn't come that often. Hate to burst your bubble on this, Dave.
I celebrate Hanukkah. I just think it's worthwhile. I mean, is it just gonna mess everything up if we look into trying to get other specs? Like, I'm not trying to like put the brakes on, but I'm just thinking it seems smart to get other numbers. Why not? That's my point. Why not?
Well,
If it messes the whole thing up, that's a good
That's
reason
why
why
we're
not.
weighing this
Right.
out, because of all the other issues, like, is it really worth it against all these other things? That's why I haven't really talked about the numbers, because, yeah, it's just whatever.
And if we don't know, then it's really hard to know.
what kind of time frame are we talking about if we try to go back out and solicit additional proposals? And can we meet those construction?
Right, so that kind of, that
Opportunity
plays
for-
into it, into the cost too, because, you know, we're probably a couple weeks from LHB. They might have, within a week or two, I would think they'd be able to pull, probably within a week, they could pull another spec together. But then, you know, typically, you try to give the bidders a week and a half, ideally 2 weeks to review it and bid it. Again, this is not a very complicated structure, so
Right.
a week would probably be adequate. But the thing with these suppliers, they're telling us they're so booked right now.
Everyone, right.
Everyone that we've
Yeah.
talked to, they're so booked up that, you know, they won't even look at it or provide a price within our construction timeframe unless
Gotcha.
they know for sure that it can happen down the road next spring or in the wintertime, or, you know. And then, if we were still involved, we would have additional overhead costs, you know, that would get applied after the fact, if it was a part of our scope still. Whereas if it's done within our construction phase period, you know, our services are still included in that. Our coordination efforts and everything are included in that building going up. So-
And when you start to take into account someone else's time, again, within this office, then you might as well increase the cost right there. You know, remember that against any potential savings.
Yeah.
And it's not like people don't have things to do.
We're hoping that in the spring it's gonna be all better.
No, we'll go find something else.
Yeah, we already have a Nice long list.
Okay.
Well, I think with all that's been said and done, I would move to accept the proposal by Lester Buildings to provide that facility, building.
I'll second that.
Any other comments?
Do we get to pick a color?
You do, well, I guess I don't know, officially, it
Sorry.
probably needs to run through,
Well, there's only 14 colors
Right.
there, so.
We've
LHB.
generally been letting Brandy, our architect,
Yep.
pick all the colors.
I was just kidding because I saw the brochure.
Yeah.
You go right ahead.
they did provide a color chart, so.
Not bright red.
Yeah, not pretty.
No.
I think
She won't.
she'll probably coordinate it maybe with the roof, the standing seam metal roof color, so it's,
Green.
yeah, but she's the expert.
Green, gray, brown, you know, one of those drab colors.
Yep.
So, sure.
That was just a little joke based on if you've ever been a female and gone car shopping, do you know what every car salesman will only ever ask you?
What color do you want?
That's the only thing they'll ever ask you.
Really?
The car. Oh, yeah, you can pretty much guarantee it.
There you are. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve the bid with Lester Buildings, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Anything else, Eric? or-
No, I think that's all I had.
So, with the painting stuff, if I send you all those signed things on Monday, would that be adequate, or do you want them right now?
That's fine,
Okay.
on Monday.
Because
Yeah.
as you can see, our mayor isn't.
Yeah, nope, not a problem. It's,
Doesn't Tim get to sign things?
He could, yeah, if we needed him
Don't
to,
mind
he
it, don't
certainly
mind it.
could.
His name is already on all these,
Exactly.
stuff, I mean, you have to cross it out.
yeah.
Where's the stamp?
We haven't had one made for him.
I never had a stamp.
I have one for Ed Bolstead still.
Well, that's good,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's worth something.
All right. Well, thank you, Eric.
Yeah, thank you.
Keep up the good
Yeah,
work.
thanks, guys.
Yeah, things are moving along.
They're moving
I
along.
know, A lot of people are noticing.
Good.
Yeah, those panels went up and,
I honestly drove by it today and I was like, I totally thought like the clear story windows, it was gonna be facing south. I was like, they built it backwards.
Oh,
I don't know why, but like when I looked at the plans that we did, I always thought that the windows that were high would be south to get. And then if there was gonna be solar panels, they would mount over the lower office portion, workshop portion.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
To block the windows.
early
That's what I
on,
thought, too.
early on in the design process. I think we probably did look at a drawing that was oriented that way, but as soon as they did any real work, they turned it around.
Yeah.
And
Which is fine, that's just,
Yeah.
it's like, whoa, you know,
just operationally, it
pretty
makes a lot
cool,
more
quick
sense.
to get all that wall, all the walls set, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
yeah.
Fast.
So, thank you guys for your time.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good
Yes.
work.
Well, Kim, I did want to mention that our accounting group is working on the certified payroll. First building too. Yep. So
Okay.
we're pulling that stuff together.
Okay.
We're working on pay request number 1.
ooh,
Yes. So hopefully you'll see that at your next meeting.
Okay. So thank you.
Thanks.
Have a
Thanks,
good
Joe.
one.
Good night.
All right, next item on the agenda is Sawtooth Bluffs Master Plan Grant Match. Information in the packet. You see the email from Lisa Kerr, the County Parks and Trails Director, regarding the effort to begin a master plan process for the Sawtooth Bluffs property. County had requested this, applied for this grant from the coastal program to do the planning, and there's a required match to that of $7,500, of which the county is asking that the city participate in sharing that match.
I mean, I'd make a motion that we do that. I think anything we can do to get that project rolling is in the city's best interest and everybody that comes up here. Liz, you're going to visit. I think it's awesome to see the progress. And then we got a grant.
Yeah.
Kind of looks like the question is though, how much? Is that?
There-
I think he said I make a motion.
$37.50.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but nobody else said anything yet.
Well, my
Right.
only question is why do
Is
we
there-
always do half?
Is there a second?
Oh, we can't
Well-
talk about it
Second.
yet.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
How
Why?
come we always do half? As
What's-
county residents?
I think that's what the county board had suggested, is that we
No, I-
participate.
No, I know that part, but you know what I mean? no
Why
matter-
do we do half?
Yeah,
I mean,
as
it's-
opposed to, since we're all county residents,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Yeah, I don't mean this project in particular, just the whole concept.
I don't think we do always do half, but it's a pretty easy go-to for a conversation starter anyway, and it often ends up that way.
Mm-hmm.
In particular for issues where the council feels like it's one of their priorities, that ends up being the case more often than not. But there are certain times where, well, you know, tennis club asks the county for more money than they ask us sometime, or, you know, an issue like that. It's not always 50.
But you
But
get the
really,
general concept.
I think the conversation you want to have is like, what's the right share? And that's been an ongoing back and forth for a long time without really any obvious answer.
Well, and I think as this conversation goes on about a joint city-county park project, you know, I think there will be more questions about what kind of share there might be to this kind of a project. You know, we've got an example of the library that's a city-county project. We don't have a lot of other joint projects, but this, I think, will generate comments and questions and concerns about how the city and the county are going to provide for this facility.
Have you been involved in meetings and stuff planning for what's happening up there, or what the conversations have been, or is none of that really moved forward? That's what this is
There
grant money
hasn't
is
been
for.
any conversation, I mean, at least no formal conversation. I think there have been a number of user groups that I think have expressed an interest, but not in a formal fashion. So I would say that this process will be the beginning of that more formal process to bring all those user groups together and kind of hear those ideas in a kind of a setting where they can be kind of tailored to a particular plan.
Because I know that there'd been talk earlier about recognition via the Minnesota Parks and Trails, right, for legacy funding, right? And that, I feel like, was the last conversation we kind of had about that. About even, you know, the Sawtooth Bluff
The
area.
master plan is necessary to qualify for
For
that.
that.
Yeah.
This
Right,
is
and
really
that's
the
what
next
this is.
step.
Yeah.
Right, and I didn't know what, since we talked about it last, that's the first time we've heard about it for a while, so I didn't know what's transpired since then, if anything.
Just the conversations at the County Parks and Trails Commission that has suggested that this is a priority, and to find funding for a master plan would be the next step to take
Gotcha.
to keep this project moving along.
Okay.
Without the master plan, I mean, I think we've got a concept out there, but not much more than that. And you know, this is on a fairly quick time frame too to complete the master plan. And I think the idea was that if the process started this fall, it would be completed by this winter and be able to be submitted to the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission for their consideration for designation and potential funding
For the next,
in the next cycle,
show.
which might be pretty ambitious, but
Yeah.
still, I mean, it's,
It's ARDC, come on.
yeah, I mean, if the process can produce a quality plan in that period of time, maybe it can, maybe it can't, but
I think there's a challenge for sure because of like I mean, the benefit is there's multiple user groups, so you have a large amount of people that could be interested with input, which also could make it really
Yeah,
hard to like.
I agree. I mean,
kind of
it may
how
be
you
that
push and pull on.
that this
know,
doesn't come together quite as quickly as
Yeah.
it might be anticipated.
Like if it was a single organization's development of a master plan
Yeah.
or a project, you know.
If it's anything like the rec park master plan conversation was, there'll need to be a lot of money in the budget for interactions with the public. And there isn't any reason I can think of why it shouldn't be like that, because every time there's been a conversation about this piece of property, there's been a lot of motivated members of the public that are interested in being a part of that, whether they consider themselves a user group or they're organized or not. They will be organized and they will want to participate, and so it's certainly in our interest to design a process that makes that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great.
But I think by providing that match, it at least begins that process. And, you know, if we identify, or that process identifies more complex issues, you know, maybe we have to continue that planning process. But, you know, without starting, we won't ever know, so.
That's good.
So are master plans super detailed, or can they be broad enough to, is that kind of a difficult?
This is jargon, right? What's a master plan? What the heck does that even mean? It's like blue ribbon committee. Thankfully, the Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails Commission has a definition and some pretty clear descriptions of the features they want to see in it. And it is pretty detailed, but there's just a few things that are specific to their needs that we wouldn't necessarily want in another plan. The parts that are likely to be complicated are they want to see public input, but they don't put any definition on that. And they want to see a capital improvement plan. And for this, I mean, we don't even have a concept yet much developed. To turn that into a capital improvement plan is kind of a lot of steps involved there.
Yeah, it'd be pretty, okay. Sort of answers that question.
Yeah, and we don't have any kind of partnership or arrangement between the city and the county yet as to how that might, you know, work between the city and the county too, and we're sharing, you know, each of our land ownership up there as part of a common facility, but we don't really know how that, you know, how that might shake out, so.
Well, so, you know, this is a comment like the others, some of them just based on the bigger issue, how do we figure this out when the residents of the city are also county taxpayers as well? And a lot of these things are used broadly. I'm sure a lot of them will be used by visitors to our community, so that's beneficial to everybody. But still, when you look back, I mean, you have to ask, why as a resident of the city are you know, contributing?
Well, you're already footing the bill in the infrastructure usage of the whole county by being a taxpayer in the city of Grand Marais.
Right.
And then, actually, it's not just the county users, because there's 10,000 people in the county on a weekend instead of 5,000 or whatever it is. And so the people in the city of Grand Marais are really paying for a lot of the infrastructure and the usage and wear and tear on, you know, the, you know.
Well, in this particular case, with this project or concept or whatever, it was the city's idea, and then looking at the property is like, oh, there's county land around it. Why don't we include the county? And so then, you know, and then the formation of the Parks and Trails Commission is a new thing. It's like, maybe this would be a nice project. So that's, you know, kind of started with the city, and, you know, I think that's a good reason for, I understand the frustration.
I'm not saying we shouldn't participate or
Right.
help with this, and it's a awesome idea. I really
Yeah.
like it. I'm just saying somehow I'd like to have an idea how we think this one through, and not just say that it's always a, and you said it isn't always, but, you know, just to hear you do half and I do half, because I don't think somebody's thinking really
We
well
should
when
get
they
a
say
formula.
that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's true. I think that this, yeah, I think this
That's
one,
all.
yeah, I agree
To
with
get
it.
through. That's all. But I would not want to slow down making sure this moves forward. It's a great idea.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to support the matching funds for the master plan, vote aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the Grand Marais wastewater, or the Water Emergency and Conservation Plan. And you don't actually have that in our packet.
No, it was emailed separately with the certification form.
Is this something that, or how often is this done? I don't recall that I've seen this in the past, but maybe I have and just
Yeah.
have not remembered doing this, but,
I'm not sure, and it's possible that this is based on some newer requirements. But the process is, how this one was developed anyway, that the DNR worked directly with Tom Nelson. Tom drafted this up based on the DNR's requirements. The DNR reviewed it and said it's adequate for what they need. And so the next step is for us to adopt it.
and is this something that the Public Utilities Commission needs to approve too, or is it something that the council can just accept and
Yeah.
notify the public utilities that it's been taken care of?
Yeah, the DNR doesn't need the Utilities Commission to certify it, so.
I'm sorry, did you say how often it happens?
No.
Okay.
And he won't.
Nope,
Yeah,
because I don't know.
yeah. I mean, I don't recall that it's happened in the past, but
I mean, Tom and I have talked about it quite a bit, and I don't know if that was just in the context of developing this one, or if he did one previously as well, that I'm remembering,
Yep.
so we could ask him. He'd
Yep.
be happy to come give you a report on it if you want him to.
So this is, okay, yeah, no, I was struggling to understand what it was, but I guess now, as soon as you focus on the conservation side of it, that's what it means, like, by like water emergency, it's like, not, like there's something wrong with the water and like how you manage with it, it's like if there's like some sort of shortage and there's issues that have to
Yeah.
happen, like this is how they're gonna deal with it.
And it's, not something that really we would have put on our radar independently,
Yeah.
but you can imagine in other parts of the state, this is a real issue.
And does it have to do because of we pull from surface water, or is it like because we have, right, because that's how we get our, from the DNR, we have a,
Well, we do have a permit with the DNR to draw out of the lake.
yeah.
It's through that permit that this requirement
Sure.
shows up,
Right.
but I think that it's a requirement on everyone.
Gotcha.
Yes, so is anybody serving over 1,000 people?
Yeah.
we're less dependent on, drought conditions and that, which might affect other
Like Wiper Lake or something.
places that.
Which is filled up again, I understand.
Yes,
really?
they're back finally.
Okay.
That took a while. Well, it's still the western part of the state, they're still pumping water out to them, I think.
Yeah.
Well, the plan has been submitted, DNR has accepted and approved the plan. We just have to sign off on it, so unless there's any other questions
Is there
or.
action? We have to approve the
Yeah.
approval? Right?
DNR has approved it, we have to accept.
You have to adopt the plan.
Okay.
So if you're willing to do that now, great. If you prefer to have a more in-depth presentation about it, we can do that next meeting.
I would make a motion to adopt the Grand Marais Water Emergency and Conservation Plan.
We have a
I'll
motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We now have a water emergency and conservation plan in place. We may have had one before too, but.
We may have.
Yeah,
That's how many emergencies we have.
I know.
Be careful, something happened now that you said that.
Council reports. Dave?
Wow, are they already? The only thing I have is that
Right.
We're out behind schedule a little bit.
Well, no, I think
Pick it
we're,
up.
We're on schedule.
right on schedule.
a call of great thanks for fixing the Humphrey Circle water issue. That's it.
All right.
Didn't know there was one.
I don't know.
No. didn't.
This is
Runoff
spring, yeah,
water
spring related
Oh, okay,
road
It's
stuff.
just road
so,
maintenance.
yeah.
okay.
It's been a tough one.
Speaking of road maintenance, I got a call about between where there's the stub on 9th off of First between, well, 8th and 10th, there's a little stub on 9th there, kind of like a cul-de-sac, yeah, west. And there was like a cut there that was all full of gravel and it was fine, but that all got cleaned out because there was supposed to be some sort of patchwork or something, but that never happened. So there's like a 6-inch by like 8-inch like void that has to be like driven through. So anyway,
I'm not following you on where that is.
So First Street,
First Street, yep.
First Street, and 8th is right up from the
Ninth
pool.
doesn't go through.
9th doesn't go through, so it's if you turned up there, it's where 9th Avenue West would go off of First Street at that cut across there. There's only like
So
3 houses
going
back
up to
there
Donnie's
in that area, yep.
or the alley that goes up?
No.
Not the alley.
No, it's like right at where the apron turns for 9th Avenue West.
Okay.
There was a cut and it was full of gravel or whatever, and then it was supposed to get patched, so it got cleaned out so that it could get patched, but then it never got patched, so now there's just this like jarring giant rut right now. That like is the whole stretch. It's not like you can avoid it. So anyway, if that's something that if the guys are out, they can look at.
Well, first
Also,
we'll
kudos
figure out-
on the yellow paint. That's awesome. That noticed it already on the busy weekend. So
It's working.
it seems like it. Motorcycles like parked there, but they don't block stuff. So had an EDA meeting last night, and there is a what's the big action? Well, there's a meeting tomorrow for approval with the planning commission for the housing, the Grand Marais owner-occupied housing.
The final plat.
For the final plat.
Yeah.
Right, which is kind of exciting that that's moving along. And we had a couple folks that were interested in, well, a couple that was interested in buying 2 lots in the business park. But there is issues with zoning requests that would have to change. And so we'd asked them to come and talk to the city, and their number was about 10 to 15% of what the appraised value was as well, what their offer was. So we also, everybody, without really saying a number, said that the number has to come up probably to make it, more enticing for the EDA. But so they were going to try and follow up with the planning commission as well, or with the city to figure out if they could get on the agenda there and see what happens. And yeah, that's it for the EDA. That's the only thing that
Intrigue.
intrigue.
Mhm.
You don't know more? I mean, I can talk more. Okay.
Keep on going.
Can't wait to find out tomorrow.
Oh, I heard there was one of those housing deals again, right? Yeah, I heard that directly from,
Want me on the radio?
yeah.
Oh, also, I got an email from Rhonda saying that Jay's not here, so somebody has to go on the radio tomorrow morning. So
1, 2, 3, not it.
Tim's good, or I'll do it too, but Tim could do it.
Go ahead, you can take it.
All right.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Yeah.
Vice.
Double vice.
Double vice.
It's a nice ring to it.
Yeah.
DP.
Done?
Yep,
All right.
as long as that's been established. I'll have Rudy call me tomorrow morning and remind me that I have to do that. Okay.
What time is that?
8:20.
Call him at 8:05 because we were looking for you this morning. Okay, nothing.
Nothing, no?
Nothing.
Let's make it simple then. Yesterday I went to a meeting, Rob Eklund was in town and he met with the county board, and I was, just happened to be up there, so I sat in on the meeting. Mostly talking about county issues, but one thing that, did strike me as part of his conversation was that, his concern about the federal government dealing with the Affordable Care Act and the impacts that the current proposals
both the House and the Senate would have on rural hospitals. And, he says he has 4 major rural hospitals: International Falls, Cook, Ely, and Grand Marais, and it's in his district, and all of those would be severely impacted and jeopardized by, at least the current bills that are being proposed. And I certainly don't know the language that's how that's covered, but he made a point specifically of talking about that. Another thing that was brought up, which I thought was also interesting, and wasn't something that he brought up, but somebody else brought up during the meeting, was the issue of the high percentage of seasonal rec property classifications in the county, and the fact that I think Todd Smith said the number is somewhere around 53% of the total properties in the county are seasonal rec. And of course, they don't pay certain taxes, and the impact that has on our community. I think it was suggested that the next closest county with seasonal rec, high percentage of seasonal rec properties was at least 20% lower than we are in terms of the total impact on their county. And that there was just a conversation about whether there might be able to be some kind of discussion about how that impacts a place like Cook County and what that means to, the future for us, because even though the standards were put in place a few years back to exempt seasonal rec properties from school taxes and I think other taxes too, I'm not sure the exact what they're exactly exempt from, but I know it's certain school taxes. That has a big impact on Cook County, and if there's a way to consider some kind of changes to that language, it would make a big difference to the county and to the school district. And
I'm glad to see. Here's somebody brought that up. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Did
I
any
brought
of
that
you
up with them.
go to that meeting that Byers, Heron, and Voyager Brewing sponsored on the tax?
No.
I did not.
Yeah, that's exactly what they said. So that nonprofit group that they brought up, the tax experts, which I don't know if I assume they do consulting, but you were there, Mike, right now?
No.
So he made that perfectly clear that we were an anomaly. We were just,
Well, I think that
they were really good. And Todd did a nice job that night too, explaining, there's the valuation, but then there's the taxes. People kind of meld the whole nasty thing together, but 2 separate things. But that guy who spoke was very good, and that was his point. And I agree, we really lose on the school district in a lot of other ways. And now I see Dayton was just pushing through for something to exempt the larger farmers over in the western part of the state, sort of similar to the complaints around the seasonal thing, which I don't think helps them either. Really, those smaller areas either when they do that. But yeah, I would love to see us pursue that, and I don't know if that group, I would assume they do consulting, this nonprofit that analyzes property taxes.
I don't think they do. I think they're
just totally
kind of a policy analysis group.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, they've got a lot of really good, they're totally nonpartisan. Very.
Well, it might be something that we would want to have conversations with the county about. I don't know how many seasonal rec properties we have in the city, but I'm suspecting we probably still have some seasonal rec properties, and I don't know what it takes to qualify for seasonal rec, but certainly there's people that use properties in the city on a seasonal basis and might have that that tax classification. So one of the other things that Rob also said is that he encouraged both the county and the city and the school district to make sure that they continue to talk to him about issues that are relevant and important, and not only to talk to him, but in fact, Representative Linda Slocum was at the meeting. She has a summer home on Caribou Lake, and she's a metro area legislator, and she also suggested that metro area legislators need to see
Greater Minnesota folks show up in their office, and she sits on a lot of the education and health type committees, so, you know, something totally different than what Rob sits on. Rob is mostly natural resources, environment, mining, logging, stuff, and, you know, which is good for our district, but as he said, you know, you're preaching to the choir when you come down and talk to me, because I'm couldn't generally be supportive of most of the things you ask for, so it's getting out and talking to the other legislators that, you know, when we have issues that we want to make some traction with, we need to get out and talk to others. She would also be a good person to visit with, if, you know.
Well, Jeannie Storley made similar comments, and it's probably from that meeting, then that she brought out at the radio this morning, was that you really should go as an individual and get on the list, go into the go talk to these people, and not just your own representatives as well. Go
right.
Visit other people. And I thought that's great to know that you could get in there and do that, because I think it does. I mean, every time you have a real conversation with somebody, it is impactful, as
Yeah.
opposed to just paying your lobbyist to go down and whatever. So that was nice to hear, but I bet you that's probably where that came from, huh?
I think so. Well, Ginny and I were talking to Representative Slocum after the meeting ended, so it probably did come from that conversation. And, you know, but I do know that, you know, we appreciate when people come to the council and speak to us directly, and I think they also appreciate when they have us come and visit them and speak to them directly too about issues that are really important for us. So.
Did either of them mention anything about local option sales tax?
Was not mentioned.
I didn't think.
Should have been there.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
The only other thing I had is just, you know, last week we had the maps for the Highway 61 project. Those were obviously looked at. There were questions and comments put together. Anything more now in terms of next step in the plan, or how that process is going to unfold?
No, the next tentative meeting of that group is in early August.
Mhm.
So they were, you know, we delivered them our marked up map and haven't heard back from Roberta yet on any follow-up. If it's anything like last time, it would be the internally MnDOT is having a conversation between the landscape architects in the central office that they brought in and the District 1 team to figure out how to respond to our comments. So I guess I was anticipating a few more iterations of that process before we've got something that's worth bringing back to the public and having a conversation with them. You know, we certainly noticed a lot of headway in the first try with the landscape architects involved, but still just too many issues to where I would feel comfortable going back to a property owner and saying, here's what they drew. I just think that they have a lot more work to do before it's even in our interest to do that. So we'll keep advocating as a steering committee to try and get some of that stuff figured out. I only know what the next step is. I'm not sure what the end game looks like yet.
Can you get any further along with that area over on 5th and 61?
I think they have more work there than anywhere to do. It's just there's not a lot of good solutions.
Now, it's MnDOT who is going to be painting any crosswalks, right? Or is that, do we do
MnDOT
that?
hasn't painted a crosswalk in town.
Oh, okay,
since
so
I've
it's
been
us.
here.
And
But,
same
you know,
with the
when we're
curbs
doing this
and-
design, they're
Yeah.
the ones that are indicating on the design where crosswalks are going to be painted and not.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll certainly want them to indicate on the design wherever we'd like to see one painted.
The reason I was asking, that was just an example, but just about painted parking spaces as well along, I've had emails suggesting that a painted parking space can make parking a little more efficient as far as how many you can fit in. Didn't know if that was in our jurisdiction or if that was outside of that.
You've had multiple property owners suggest that to you?
No.
Okay. I mean, I think that concept's not very well tested, that conclusion is accurate.
Mhm.
And my own observation is, in the conversations we've had, the public has brought up concerns about trucks with trailers and oversized
Right.
vehicles and everything else, and that just doesn't mesh very well.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you know, the fact is that you can fit a lot of 14-foot smart cars if you don't paint, and, you know, 20-foot pickup trucks aren't going to fit in painted spots, so.
But that is in our jurisdiction then?
No,
Oh,
it's not in
oh,
our jurisdiction.
okay.
But I think that if we decided we wanted to advocate for that,
Yeah.
and, you know, take the pros and cons that come with it, that we
Mhm.
could have that conversation. We've talked to MnDOT about it. We asked them about it right away when we received that feedback, so.
Well, and this is right at Fifth, that this is, you know,
Yeah.
concerned, the Harbor House is concerned about that. And that could be a great pilot spot to try it and see.
What
It's
are
true.
Two Harbors is doing? They're a year ahead of us. They have a lot of people who park on 61. Wonder how they're going to decide to, even if they cared. We need to know what they're up to. Is there a thing out online? They're farther ahead of us.
No, I haven't seen anything, and I don't know if they're really going through the similar
Right.
process that we're doing either, so.
I have had multiple people talk to me though about RV parking in general, where, I mean, and from different perspectives too.
Yeah, both sides of the issue.
Well, no.
All 6 sides of the issue?
Different perspectives as far as like, this is taking up business parking space. It's loud because they have their generator running, and it's overnight, so it's taking away from campground revenue, which campground's probably full, but it's just interesting, like, there's different, and that's from multiple people. It's like,
That's
huh.
not legal in town.
Okay.
So, you know, you can encourage anyone that has an issue with that to just
30?
contact the sheriff,
Yeah.
yeah. Like
Yeah, I
camper,
didn't
there's
think
no
you could.
overnight camper or trailer parking allowed in town. There's no occupying trailers and RVs in town except for in approved campgrounds. Those are both ordinances that we have.
On public property, like on streets.
No, the occupying would be anywhere.
Oh, even in your front yard?
Yeah.
What about my backyard?
I mean, we have, you can park one there,
Right.
and, but, you know, can you rent it out for the weekend? No.
Oh.
Can your kids play in it? Sure.
Okay.
Can you live there all summer?
Put it
Probably
in
not.
your garage, and then nobody will see it, right?
Is there an ordinance on tents? Okay.
Now Dave's getting nervous.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe we should stop talking about ordinances.
All right, so that's all I have to report, so, Mike?
So I just, one thing, last meeting you approved 2 temporary beer tent permits. One of them's been processed and approved for the Lions Club. The other one was not approved because the Marais Music Collaborative has only been established since 2016, and you have to have been established for at least 3 years before you can get a permit like this. So they sent that back. The Music Collaborative talked to the Marais folks and asked if the American Legion 413 would be willing to be the nonprofit, and they said that they would. I suggested that to the state. I haven't heard back from them on whether that's acceptable or not, but this is the one and only meeting where you have a chance to take any action on that. And so if we were just to reapprove that same permit from last time, but with the American Legion 413 as the entity rather than Marais and nothing else about it changes, then I'll send that to the state tomorrow and see if we can get it done still. Otherwise, it's not going to happen this year.
But obviously different weekend or something.
Yep.
Yeah, different than the other one that the
Yeah,
American Legion is
yeah,
doing.
okay, that's
Yeah,
all it
this
was.
is for the event here, this is for the Marais Music
The music.
Collaborative's music,
Yeah.
All right.
which is coming up.
I guess I misunderstood, and I probably made the motion, but I guess I thought that's what was happening. Or at least in the park board meeting, that's what I thought. That was the impression I got.
Yeah, so
yeah.
the impression, nothing about this is changing other than who's putting their name on the application.
Yeah.
The people that are organizing the event are the same, the people that are serving the beer are the same. And remember that American Legion 413 is not Terry and Liz that run Grandma Ray's. They're a private business with their own full liquor license. And so it's their business that will be doing the serving, and it's just that Terry's involved with the American Legion 413 and that they have agreed to be the entity, the nonprofit entity that's the applicant that's changed.
Okay.
So if somebody wants to make
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second?
Motion made and seconded to amend the application for the beer tent license, whatever. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I had a lovely time at the SIMPA meeting this morning in Blooming Prairie.
Oh, this morning you were there.
You made it all the way
Blooming
back
Prairie,
already.
Yeah, I forgot all about
Way to
that.
go.
yeah.
And they had power. Heard the storms were bad.
On the north side of the cities they were. Thankfully, I was far south of the cities.
Another small, we had a power outage in Creechville, and it seemed like it was isolated, but they were on it. It was impressive.
It was
Good
just
stuff.
your house.
Yeah.
Anything else, Tim?
Nope.
Nothing?
I checked.
Last chance? Meeting adjourned. We missed you, Jay. Did it get,
Thanks,
Chris.
Did it get on there?